The rain poured heavily against the windows of Brookside Elementary, the kind of rain that made the world outside blur into gray watercolor. Inside, the classroom buzzed with chatter. It was Friday afternoon, and every child knew that once the last bell rang, the weekend was theirs. But for one boy, 12-year-old Ethan Miller, weekends didn't feel like freedom. They felt like reminders. Ethan sat at the back of the classroom, quietly doodling on the corner of his notebook. His clothes were neat, but a little too small, and the worn-out sneakers on his feet told more of his story than he ever dared to. He avoided speaking too much, avoided drawing attention, and above all, avoided pity. That day, their teacher, Mrs. Collins, stood at the front holding a stack of brightly colored flyers. "Class," she said, her voice carrying warmth, "next week we're beginning the Community Kindness Project. Every student will choose one act of kindness to complete. It could be helping a neighbor, visiting a senior center, or even supporting a classmate. At the end, you'll share what you learned." The room filled with whispers of excitement. Plans of baking cookies, visiting shelters, and donating clothes bounced around. Ethan listened silently. His life already revolved around responsibility, taking care of his little sister while his mom worked double shifts. He wondered if that counted. When the bell rang, children rushed out into the storm, but Ethan lingered. Mrs. Collins noticed. "Ethan," she said gently, "do you have an idea for your kindness project?" He shrugged, staring at the floor. "Not yet." Her eyes softened. "Sometimes, Ethan, the kindest acts come from where we least expect them." That evening, Ethan walked his sister, Lily, home through puddles. Lily was only 7, full of chatter and laughter, and though Ethan often felt the weight of being more brother than friend, he never let her see his weariness. When they reached their small apartment, Lily spotted a man sitting under the awning of the corner store. His clothes were damp, his beard unkempt, and his eyes distant. "Ethan," she whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "Why's he sitting there?" Ethan hesitated. "Maybe he doesn't have anywhere else to go." The man glanced at them, managing a faint smile before looking away. Something in his expression stayed with Ethan as they climbed the narrow stairs to their apartment. That night, while Lily colored with broken crayons at the table, Ethan opened the refrigerator. Half a loaf of bread. 2 apples. A jar of peanut butter. That was it until their mom's paycheck on Monday. He sighed, then glanced at the window where raindrops streaked the glass. He pictured the man again, soaked and hungry. Without overthinking, he made a peanut butter sandwich, wrapped it in foil, and slipped downstairs. The man looked up in surprise when Ethan approached. "Here," Ethan said awkwardly, handing him the sandwich. "It's not much, but..." The man's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, son. You didn't have to." Ethan shrugged. "I know." He hurried back upstairs before the man could say more, his heart pounding with a strange mix of nervousness and relief. The next day, Ethan saw the man again. This time, he brought him the second apple. Then, on Sunday, when he had nothing left to spare, he simply sat with him for a few minutes. "My name's Daniel," the man said, his voice rough but kind. "I used to be a teacher once." "Funny how life turns." "A teacher?" Ethan asked, surprised. Daniel nodded. "English, literature. Lost my job, then lost a lot more after that. But don't worry, I'm not telling you this to make you sad. Just, sometimes people forget that everyone has a story." Those words struck Ethan deeply. For the first time, he didn't just see a homeless man, he saw a person with a past, with pain, and maybe with hope. Monday arrived, and so did the Community Kindness Project presentations. One by one, students shared cheerful stories of baking, volunteering, and helping their families. When it was Ethan's turn, his palms sweated. He stood, clearing his throat. "I didn't do anything big. I met someone." The class went quiet. Ethan glanced at Mrs. Collins, who nodded encouragingly. "There's a man who sits near the store by my building. His name's Daniel. I gave him some food, but mostly I just listened. He used to be a teacher. And I realized he's not invisible, even if people walk past like he is. He matters." A hush filled the room. Some kids shifted uncomfortably, others looked thoughtful. After class, Mrs. Collins pulled Ethan aside. Her eyes were shining. "Ethan, that might be the most powerful project of all." Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's quiet acts continued. Sometimes it was food, sometimes it was conversation. Slowly, he noticed Daniel changing too, sitting straighter, smiling more. One afternoon, Ethan found Daniel with a worn book in his lap. "I thought you might like this," Daniel said, handing it to him. It was The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, pages yellowed but intact. I don't have much to give, Daniel admitted, but books kept me alive when everything else fell apart. I think you'll like this one. Ethan held the book like treasure. No one had ever given him something so personal, so meaningful. But then, one cold December evening, Daniel wasn't at his spot. Ethan checked the next day, and the next. Still nothing. Worry gnawed at him. Finally, after nearly a week, he saw Daniel again, this time, cleaner, dressed in donated clothes, and standing outside the community center. His eyes lit up when he spotted Ethan. I've got news, Daniel said, grinning. The center helped me get into a program. Housing, work training, I'm getting a second chance. Ethan's chest swelled with relief and pride. That's amazing. Daniel clasped his shoulder. Don't ever forget this, Ethan. Your kindness didn't just feed me. It reminded me I was still human. You changed more than you'll ever know. Months later, during the school's spring assembly, Mrs. Collins announced a new initiative, a kindness wall, where students could share stories that inspired them. To Ethan's surprise, one square bore a note in neat handwriting. To the boy who gave me a sandwich in the rain, you gave me more than food. You gave me hope. Daniel. Ethan stared at the note, his heart pounding. Around him, classmates whispered, realizing the story he had once told was real. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel invisible either. Years later, long after Brookside Elementary, Ethan would look back on that rainy day as the moment his life changed. Not because of a project or a grade, but because of a choice to see someone else's humanity when no one else did. And that choice, small as it seemed, became the seed of everything he would grow to be.